20 seconds early, we'll move. Official clock back there. Let me call the meeting to order. I want to begin by let's begin with the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. Will you call the roll, please?
Chair Vogt.
Here.
Vice Chair Martinson. Here. Commissioner Chen.
Here.
Both Commissioner Bazell and Commissioner Pfeffer absent.
Posting the agenda. Agenda is posted 72 hours prior to each meeting at the following locations: the City Hall, the Pearl Public Library, and the Stoneman Building. Public comments are welcome. While there is no one here at the moment, should someone join us, they're welcome to comment, and or if they're joining us by electronically. At this point in time, they may address the Public Safety Commission on items not on the agenda. Later in the meeting, should there be requests to comment on specific agenda items, that will be welcome. Are there any reports from the commissioners of things they wish to share or items? Yes.
I'd just like to share, appreciate police departments, Officer Sandoval in particular, helping us with our neighborhood watch meeting. The team was awesome. A lot of people were commenting about the photos. I think got them interested, in particular friends from northeast San Marino, and I think hundreds of started a neighborhood watch. So I think hopefully a little bit of fire behind the initiative. So thank you, and also for fire department to having their guys out there. I think the community in our area saw that these guys are a lot more approachable, and there was a consistent message of call us, let us make it a big deal or not. Don't decide, don't consider it a bother. So thank you again.
Yeah, thank you. I'm kicking off the neighborhood watch meeting on the 29th of June, 6 o'clock, my house. Everyone's invited.
Uh,
6 o'clock, June 29th, Thursday.
Thank you for those this information and comments. We'll begin the meeting with the police department monthly report. Chief.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair and Commission. Sorry, I have too many things in my hand. I wanted to start out. We had a do written on this. We had one public comment that I wanted to bring up. Mr. Andrew Coe had made 2 or 3 observations about traffic around the schools, all 4 schools, in fact. And we have started looking at this, and I have a meeting scheduled with myself, Commander Tevitz, Superintendent, and Michael Lynn, Dr. Michael Lynn, tomorrow afternoon to talk about some of these comments and in preparation for the fall school year. We're dealing with those. The comments dealt mostly with the idea of changing or adding no stopping zones or no parking zones near the schools to avoid some of the double parking problems that we have along Huntington.
Can we come back and ask about that later, or do you want to?
Sure. For the police department report, you have it in front of you. I just wanted to highlight a couple things. One of them is under the Detective Bureau, the very first bullet point is a notation that our detectives conducted a geofence warrant. And that may not be something you're aware of or knowledgeable about, but one of the things law enforcement does that's very effective is we do a reverse warrant with providers of cell service. And we will create a area or a geofence of a specific area and find out if there were any cell phones activated within a specific area. We do that for crime scenes. We have utilized it for several cases that we're currently investigating. And they can be very, very beneficial. We take the information, we narrow it down, we start looking specifically at those devices that were activated, and then narrow it down based upon the triangulation of the cell towers to be more specific on time and location. From there, we then obtain a search warrant through the courts for those owners of those devices, and then for the owners of those devices to see if they're involved with the criminal activity. I bring that up to ask that the commission and anyone listening that they need to educate themselves in the fact that there is a bill currently in the Senate by Senator Bonta, which is the wife of the Attorney General, and it's Senate Bill 793. And the purpose of that bill is to bar any company that has that kind of information from providing it to law enforcement. In part, it is based upon abortion rights and the issue of reproductive rights of people within the state of California or in other states when they come to California for those services, which are legal, and we certainly support any of those things. We on this department have no desire nor interest in assisting any agency and investigating those crimes here in the state of California. That is not our purpose. However, there are some privacy rights groups that believe that it's intrusive and a violation of the 4th Amendment. I invite the commission to educate themselves on Senate Bill number 793 and either support it or say they don't support it, and make contact with your state senator and discuss it with them or tell them how you feel. But as a police chief, I can't do anything other than educate you about the bill. And because it's effective and because it is important for law enforcement, and additionally in my position as the co-chair of the legislative committee for the California Police Chiefs Association, I felt it was important to bring it up. As I move further along, there were 4 burglaries in the month of May. We made arrests on 2 of the burglaries, arresting 3 suspects total, 2 on one and a third one on another one. The suspects, for the most part, are going to the rear of the locations with our purchase of the drones, and by the time we get them, we will be utilize them on certain calls that we can see into the backyards at an elevated level, altitude, so that we can just look through the back to see if there's any activity or anything going on. Then 2 of the arrests were during the daytime and 1 was arrested at night. The pattern is nothing specific. It's either at night or during the day. Nighttime, we're seeing that most of them are always to the rear of the location. And there has been some consistencies in second-story burglaries throughout the Southern California region that have been committed by South American theft groups. Our detectives are part of the special group that is getting intelligence about those organizations and working just with other law enforcement agencies within the area to work on solving these crimes. So I applaud our detectives for that ongoing assistance. As Vice Chair Martin mentioned, we did spend some time at his house on a neighborhood watch. It was a great night. It really was, and I applaud him for his organization of that meeting and the strong interest by all of the attendees. It's going to help us. Also, you'll notice that we are adding in a lot more information in the report, and I think that will be beneficial to you. As far as personnel, we have 29 sworn positions filled. As of July 1st, our authorized strength will be 32. I have 2 people, I just approved one to go to backgrounds. Another one is about to enter the system, I think, for a polygraph exam. We are, one of the things in technology, and I'll speak about it shortly, is our interest in body-worn cameras, and I'll get to that momentarily. Our traffic enforcement, as you can see, the traffic sites, Officer Abington, about 110 people cited, about 20 or 90 were cited, 20 were advised. Officer Richardson had it slightly lower, but he had some personal issues, so he missed some more. But they're all much involved in all the other work. And so the other officers were having discussions with our officers about traffic enforcement is everybody's responsibility. And as you peruse the crime stats and traffic stats, you'll notice that there has been a significant increase in reporting of hit and run traffic collisions and also in some other moving violations. We are going to emphasize the fact that it's important that everybody plays a part in traffic enforcement. We have a tendency to advise a lot of people and educate. And my comments to my folks are education is not working right now. And I think we need to be a little bit stronger in that suit. An important thing to understand is also that there's laws in law enforcement where we're not able to mandate the number of citations that we want our people to write. It's called a quota, and quotas are illegal. And those departments that do those kind of things end up paying a lot of money in civil litigation when they're sued by the officers. So we are, have a responsibility to make sure we deal with that. As I move forward in the report, I want to talk briefly about the body-worn cameras. A lot of agencies get body-worn cameras because of issues involving the conduct of their officers and the number of complaints against officers, the numbers of use of force, whether it's lethal use of force or even just non-lethal or less lethal uses of force, and also about racial prejudice, racial bias. One of the nice things about this department, we really only have somewhere between 5 to 10 complaints against our officers. Several of them I initiate as the chief of police based upon information that I see and where I have a question about the conduct of the officers. Then our uses of force are about the same number every year. We have relatively few, if any, racial bias complaints. We did have 2 last year that we investigated, and those are still almost finished. And I can't really report on what the result is of those investigations. But I felt that making sure that we have this information is extremely important. My wife is a detective with the Los Angeles Police Department, and she has oftentimes told me that her review of body-worn camera information has been exceptionally helpful for her in solving crimes, identifying evidence, identifying other victims at times. But we've talked about it, and it's also along my lines of supporting body-worn cameras. I believe they're essential in law enforcement, not just to make sure officers are acting right, but to make sure that we've got information about the incident, and that'll help us investigate the incident and investigate the crimes. So we're looking at several different cameras. We have a minimum of 3 to look at, and we're going to look at those. The top 3 that we're looking at, and we've also interviewed another company last week, are Axon, which makes our taser, and they have a big place in this area, in nationwide, in body-worn cameras. Another company, LensLock, which is a smaller company based in Southern California, and then the same company that provides us with our dashboard cameras, which is WatchGuard. WatchGuard's owned by Motorola, so they're all from large companies. You can see in here what we're looking at and what we're going to evaluate. It's important to understand that the officers are able to easily operate the cameras, that they can do it by feel, that they don't have to take their eyes off the suspect to operate the camera and handle the camera. And we have a policy in place that we've taken that's similar to most departments within the region. So we're going to be doing that. Hopefully that this will start within a month that we start this, and it'll be running for several months. We'll develop a final report and present it to the Public Safety Commission for information. And then if they are acceptable and we see them being beneficial for the city and for the department, then we'll move forward with a budget item next year for the 24-25 fiscal year. Any questions so far?
The cars have video cameras now.
Yes, they do. Yeah, they're forward facing. They tamper-proof. The officers can't change anything, and the officers wear a mic on their uniform, so it can pick up conversations. The distance they get from the car can cause distortion if they're too far, but with a body-worn camera, it's always there. Moving forward, you can see our crime stats and our traffic stats. We did an evaluation, although minor, or not as in-depth as I wanted, mostly because we didn't have the data and some pretty consistent information. We get traffic complaints from the community. We have a logbook, and we looked at the last year's worth of traffic complaints. And one of the problems that we're finding is that the traffic complaints the actions by the officers aren't consistently placed in the book or given information to the dispatchers, including our CAD system. And also that there is inconsistencies in what exactly the officer did at the scene. And as you can see through some of these, there is a lot of advice on them where maybe something else was done. The location, I think on page 3 about Rose and Dorton, which we've heard quite a bit about. Says no action found. Well, I know officers were there. I know officers spoke to the residents. I know officers wrote tickets there, but the information wasn't placed in the logbook. So we're going to be cleaning that up and paying more attention to our work and better attention to detail. Also, there's no disposition. I think part of the problem is some of these locations are ongoing and some we could close out, but we have to figure out a way to better report it. When I was with the Los Angeles Police Department on reports that we dealt with in vice investigations, there were some vice investigations that were never closed out just based upon the amount of crime that was consistent and ongoing, and others that were short-term that were closed out. And I think it's very important for us to have this information to work with Public Works and Director Shaw with her new program of dealing with traffic complaints and being able to handle them through engineering aspects. And it'll give us a much better results and better information for not just you on the commission, but also for the, to realize what kind of work that we're doing. And with that, that concludes my report. If you have any questions, I'm also additionally available.
No questions, thanks, Chief.
A couple. Can you clarify Andrew Coe's comments about what he sees around the schools?
He sees some of the same things that we do, double parking, blocking of the number 3 lane of Huntington Drive, northbound Virginia, and some of the issues with the use of the horseshoe or traffic circle at Valentine. He also commented upon San Gabriel and Huntington Drive. We're going to loop in the CHP because they're responsible for traffic enforcement, and they've been great partners in the past. The area around the high school was pretty much the same issues, double parking and impeding traffic. What he didn't comment upon, but we're going to talk to the superintendent, Dr. Lin, about is how the traffic flow drop off in the front. You know, there may be other options where they could drop off on Robles. They could, but it's like kind of a hike for a kid, I guess. It's a pretty short walk for me, but I think there's something to be a walk from the softball field down to the classrooms. So we're going to be looking at a variety of different things to do.
Okay, and then just kind of as we've had a continued messaging about traffic, it sounds like because of Coe's comments, I don't know who Coe is in the community, that you're getting a small army together. Versus I know that the Public Safety Task Force has also provided feedback on the schools, and that's kind of on the commission. Are we treating everyone fairly here in terms of their feedback on these issues?
Mr. Coe didn't bring up anything that hasn't been said in the past.
Okay.
It was discussed with the Traffic Task Force. This is just a way for me to spark a little bit more, move things along. I was feeling kind of stagnated, and I wanted to especially get this thing going before school started.
Agreed.
And this is a way to go, hey, look, here it is. Dr. Lin is clearly aware of the Traffic Task Force and their discussions, but it's just something I go, okay, look, now I got something more. So let's push it forward.
Okay. And I guess in terms of something more, I mean, you liked your log comment you made earlier, you've had people in the community call you about this. Do you need more on this particular topic for issues around the school? I mean, if parents knew that you're working on it, I'm sure you'd get a lot more, if that makes sense.
We are, part of this is to work on messaging to parents.
Mm-hmm.
And I will ask the school district, what's the best messaging format? What's the best delivery of the message? Who do I talk to? How do I talk to them? And try and get this done, because I don't want to go in on August 9th, I think school starts, and start writing tickets to everybody along Huntington Drive. I still need to make sure I have some goodwill in the city, but we want to make sure that we get the information out beforehand to continue. But also, it's important for us to get this information and involve Director Shaw and her folks in Public Works.
Okay. I mean, as a Carver parent, I don't think I've ever been advised of how to appropriately drop off at Carver other than once in the driveway, in terms of if we are going to start messaging about street approach, et cetera.
You know, we're going to include that, and Dr. Lin, when he was there at Carver, came up with that system a few years ago. It was not in existence. It was kind of an interesting way people just showed up at the driveway.
Yeah, the hot mess. But I think what's also interesting, just you probably have noticed, and I've talked to Director Shaw about it, is that they've restriped San Gabriel in front of Carver now. They've tried to repair it. They've added some more lines now. It'll be interesting to see how people respond on the first day of school.
Yes.
Regarding the traffic enforcement and the data you have here, I agree with your assessment in terms of there's some intersections have more details than other. Some have times as opposed to dates only. As you kind of look forward, like, are we hoping more data around this as we do more of these enforcements based on community feedback? Is there like, that what I'm hearing, opportunity for improvement and execution, or just observations at this point?
No, this is going to look much different.
Okay.
And it's going to be better detailed because right now I don't have the best data to make sound decisions and provide you with information so that you can make sound recommendations to the department on what you think we should do. So we're going to clean up our data information.
Okay. Regarding the two new officers, are they general officers or are they going to be focused on traffic enforcement?
They would be assigned to patrol.
Patrol is everything.
Everything.
Okay.
Yes.
Got it. All right, that's all I have. Thank you.
Welcome, sir.
Chief, on page 8 of the packet, which is actually, I guess, the last page of your report, or no, the page before that, under the subject of traffic enforcement, there's an indication of primary collision factors cited by the PD, speed, failure to obey signs, etc., as up to 170. I hope that's not just for the month of May. Is it?
That is for the month of May.
And that many collisions, 170 collisions in May?
No, what that means is we identify the top 5 primary collision factors for traffic collisions. And we focus our traffic enforcement on those top 5, just as we do on the top 5 or sometimes top 4 locations. So if we realize and we know that speeding is the #1 reason people crash into each other, that we focus more attention, as you can see, on speeding vehicles. And then failing to stop, failing to obey a traffic control device, which is generally a red light. So that's what that means. It doesn't mean that we had that many collisions because we had
148 stops by the motor officers, and I assume that they were focused on both a combination of these factors and the locations that they were rolling.
and the complainant locations. We had 14 traffic collisions in May.
Right, that's what I was trying to recognize.
Yeah, so there's different things and
The numbers.
right, how we figure out how we enforce traffic enforce the laws.
Will you have an opportunity after you hold your meeting with the school folks? I may not have been paying close enough attention to know, is Director Straw involved in that? Or are you going to give her feedback from that?
We did talk about it and I believe she's going to attend the meetings.
Great. So, and you have, both of you have the input from the traffic task force, which identified those same problems and actually offered some suggestions, I believe. So thank you very much for addressing that so quickly.
Welcome, sir.
I just had one additional issue. I guess this is going to come up maybe under the fire department report, but there was a report that you held 2 active shooter training sessions at Stoneman, and just wanted to take note of that. Commend you all for doing that. Appreciate you doing that.
Thank you, sir. It was geared towards the rescue task force. And I don't want to take any thunder away from Chief Ueda that worked with multiple agencies, and it was so far 2 of the meetings were done really well, and then we have another one coming up that will round out our training.
Thank you. That's all for me. Shall we move along to the fire department monthly report?
Motion to receive and file.
Yes, we could have a motion to receive and file. Thank you. Like a second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Now we'll move ahead.
Fire department report. You know, I have the police and fire radios on in my office. An officer Abington on that radio all day long, giving citations. He is a workhorse, he really is. Those stats bear it out, but I hear them all day long. So this is our fire department monthly report. And you have it in front of you, but just want to point out a couple things in here. You know, in our preparation for the 4th of July, and we don't have a significant fireworks problem in our city, in large part because of the rapid response of the police department and rigorous enforcement of our rules, and also the seriousness that residents take and immediately call when there's fireworks of any kind in our city. But part of that preparation is not only the chief and I discuss each year fireworks, but also our brush inspections start, and we start usually mid-June, so that by the time our real brush season gets here and in the fall, that people have done all the preparation for their city, but getting out and starting to do our brush inspections and start as part of that 4th of July preparation. There was also a couple of significant incidents. We had a fire on the 2100 block of South Oak Knoll, where it was a result of cooking spread into the hood, the overhead hood, and into the attic of the home. We utilized firefighters from South Pasadena, San Gabriel, Hamburg to help put that out and keep it from spreading. Also, the our fire department assisted San Gabriel in a rather large fire, a 4-story building under construction. So all of those 2x4s were standing on end and burned as you'd expect. They're really lucky in keeping it out of adjacent condominium complex, but good job by all and good cooperation. And then as you pointed out, Sergeant Wu from the police department and one of our battalion chiefs, Eric Sanderson, set up a series of multi-jurisdiction active shooter trainings. And I think both police and fire have so many new people. While they likely got the basics in their academies, this was really an opportunity to walk them through what it would look like here and how they might expect to conduct themselves and operate interagency. So it was a good exercise. I like to talk about training in kind of 3 phases: the crawl, walk, and then we run full speed. And this was really a crawl, a classroom session. It was conducted last month for all, and then followed up by these structured active shooter scenarios. So, and the last one will be, I think, next Saturday. So that'll be a good exercise, and that'll lead us to further preparations in this area. You know, it is one of the things that keeps Chief Incontro and I awake at night. And other than the significant training with our 2 employees, keeping them on track, preparing for budget approvals, get things prepped to purchase. That concludes my report.
No questions. Thank you, Chief.
I was curious, just from the drill that you guys did over Stoneman, is there future plans to do it at one of our schools?
I don't know. I think doing it at Stoneman allows us to do it sort of out of the public eye without necessarily involving the district or activities they may have. Stoneman actually proved to be a valuable location for realistic scenario, and then putting not dummies, but victims in place, budging them up a little bit, allowing our firefighters to go through extraction and police to go through their operations. So I don't think there's anything in the near future planned with the district at this
Was it a Monday through Friday exercise or a weekend exercise?
Saturday, half day.
So in a future state, it could possibly be at a school because it would at least inconvenience the students.
It's something we have to work with the school district. Last time it took, Chief and Contra and staff weeks and weeks of preparation for the district to sort of coordinate and make sure what the scenario is going to be and realistic, but wasn't too realistic. And this just proved to be a lot simpler.
There's several issues for us to always consider when we are going to involve a school. There is the potential that a student, a faculty member, staff member could feel traumatized by the type of training that we're doing. The other is making sure that the school is available. We have to determine what type of training. The training that we've done so far for 2 weeks and now this coming Saturday is focusing on moving with the fire department and understanding how the fire department works, what their task is at an event like this, and then what the role of the police officers in protecting the firefighters that do their task. And when we look at an active shooter incident, mass casualty incident, we need to make an assessment. Do we need to do something with blank ammunition? Is that appropriate or not? Can this training be better done during a discussion type or a tabletop with the staff of the district? The district always has difficulty finding time because there are training mandates throughout the year to add this to their plate. Although the school does acknowledge it's important. So these are, we would love to do this, but we have to figure out the different types of training and the best way to make it the most efficient and in a manner in which people will learn. So they're crawling, they're walking, and then eventually.
Oh, understood. I guess just, again, we received an email about how the school was testing on cameras to use artificial intelligence to process images of people walking with guns. I'm like, it's getting real in terms of how the district's approaching it. So familiarity with the properties for the respective scenario seems to be a logical next step after some intensive planning. Understood.
And we did work with the district when they did the evaluation with the cameras and the company, and it was very helpful to understand the technology. We've also found some additional technology for them to consider. And we've mandated that our officers off hours go to all the schools. And with the schools being out of session, first week, immediately after school closed, we had officers walking through the campuses, making themselves aware of different rooms, different things, the familiarity. So we're going to be doing those kind of things on an ongoing basis.
That's great to
As
hear.
we do with other important locations, we have that relationship with the Huntington Library and Gardens.
Cool. Thank you.
22-23 capital budget included.
Yes, that's correct.
And I remember you commenting at some point. When it has arrived.
It has arrived. Process of putting in radios and lights.
And it'll be on display on the 4th of July, maybe?
I'm hoping, yes. It'll be used one way or the other, but I'm hoping it's actually fully outfitted. We borrowed one for the last 6 years. Thought it time that we actually get our own.
Oh. Overtime shows a significant
We have, let's see, we have one person that underwent shoulder surgery, another firefighter that underwent foot surgery. Those are both require overtime to replace them when they're out. So we do have an aggressive light duty program. We try to bring them back. We work with our admin, our third-party administrator. We work with Director Guerrero, our HR director. But
I guess I didn't specify my question. The question is concerned with how were they injured in some way that we are able to take some action to avoid the similar thing, or is this just one of the things that happens when you're fighting fires or doing what you do?
one of the injuries was continuous trauma just over time, and the other was actually pulling a larger hose at a fire off his shoulder.
Thanks for taking good care of them. Motion to receive and file.
So move.
Favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Director Shaw.
Thank you, Chair Bogue, and good evening, Commission. My report is included in your packet for your information. It does highlight some follow-up items from previous commission meetings, various statuses of capital improvement projects, and also our maintenance activities. I'll just take a few moments to highlight a few things. Under our follow-up items from prior commission meetings, I did want to highlight that at the June 14th meeting of the City Council, 2 contracts were awarded for on-call traffic engineering services to TransTech, who has been providing services to the city since 2018, and Hartsog and Crable, who has done a little bit of work for the city in regards to traffic signals in the past. So both of those contracts were awarded for on-call services, and we're looking forward to beginning to review some of the traffic forces report for the items that they provided for us to begin evaluating. So we'll be using their services for those amongst other initiatives, the priority traffic initiative and things for our school zones improvements. And then under projects, I did want to quickly highlight just the status of a couple ongoing. We've discussed that our annual paving street rehabilitation program is nearly complete. We have had our traffic striping and reflectors all going in. There's still some pending punch list items, but the vast majority is complete. We're hoping that'll be wrapped up in the next couple of weeks with everything. So we'll keep you apprised of that going on. We're also looking forward to beginning our annual sidewalk replacement program that we're expecting that to kick off next month. We've been identifying various sidewalk locations throughout the city based on a lot of the things that get reported through our GoGov system. We keep a track of that, a list of that, and we make temporary repairs in certain scenarios to address those immediate concerns, but now we get to go back and actually do the proper repair. So we're looking forward to getting a lot of that done. Typically we replace about 1 mile of sidewalk. So that will be getting underway soon. And then under maintenance activities, I did want to highlight, we've discussed the playground project a lot, and we did, as I previously reported, complete a playground safety audit that had gave us some findings of improvements that needed to be done. Everything that could be repaired by our staff has been completed, and we did request a proposal for repairs, required replacement parts that we haven't been able to obtain by the contractor. Unfortunately, they confirmed what we already knew, that the manufacturer is indeed out of business and their replacement parts are no longer available. So based on that information, they did send a letter to the city to my attention that basically said the 3D rope climber that was of the most immediate concern that we had roped off did indeed require removal to prevent any potential safety issues there. So our staff did complete removal of that structure last week, and So that's been done, and then I also met with a playground safety consultant, or not safety consultant, a playground consultant last week to look at some potential options for future replacement, because there are other parts of the playground that aren't a safety concern yet, but are wearing, and future looking at not having replacement parts. We will at some point need to look at replacing all the equipment. So we're gonna work on some concepts and costs for budgeting purposes, so I can take that report to the council when we're ready. And I have been I did send an update to our playground committee as well last week with all of those updates. So I've been keeping them in the loop, and I'm gonna be working with them on that report to get their input before it goes to council. And I think those were all the items I wanted to touch on, but I'm happy to address anything else in the report or otherwise.
No questions, thanks.
Back on the new painting on Sierra Madre, I mean, what's the community saying?
I haven't gotten a lot of feedback, but all the feedback I've gotten has been very positive. Everyone's been very happy with what's been done out there. So it's all been very good so far.
How feasible is it to bring that down the rest of San Marino Avenue, from here to Lorraine?
It'd certainly be feasible to look at what that would look like to carry it through.
And that versus doing an engineering assessment to figure it out and then possibly pay for it anyway. It seems generally just in town observing for a couple of minutes, a couple of days with friends that live out there, it changed the game. And I think it seems like a low cost solution. I don't know if the rest of the city staff has a comment about that.
What I heard was it's great. And finally.
It could be a quick win. If I need a white paint, try.
Yeah.
That's all look that great.
I'd just like to add to that, thank you for getting that straightened. That's been a long time coming. And living on Sierra Madre, it seems to be slowing down traffic a little bit. Cars, they have to stay in their lane now instead of making the lane twice as wide as it should be or needs to be. I did notice some of the corners though, are those going to be also painted?
Yeah, so that's part of the punch list. So you'll notice that in various locations,
Right, there's
particularly the route, like
chalk
they were able to do whatever crew they sent in that equipment.
Okay.
They're able to do a certain type of striping, but there are markouts for where they have to close the islands and some of the
Right,
other
okay. Great.
striping that needs to be completed.
An update on the dogs at Lacey Park. Some neighbors were commenting about it and I didn't even know what was happening, but
I haven't heard anything recently other than the additional signage we put up there, and I believe code enforcement has been in the park observing that, handling those issues, but I haven't heard anything specifically unless the chiefs are able to comment.
We had several complaints, and it started out as a group of dog owners figuring this is a good place to have off-leash playtime. We responded with code enforcement. There have been citations issued. There have been warnings. It seems to have diminished quite a bit. We're not getting as many calls. I'm certainly not getting as many calls. So it's we're still all paying attention to it, both code enforcement ourselves, and the code enforcement really stepped up and has been playing a good part in reducing those.
thank you. And then just final question, we mentioned this before in the past, but the old bathrooms at Lacey Park with the green construction fence inside of it, any plans to anything?
There will be
Warehouse at
plans.
this point?
There will be plans for that. We haven't looked at anything yet, but when I was looking at the playground on Friday, I did walk over there to take a little bit of notice of what's happening and how it's being maintained. And so we're gonna look at doing some improvements, at least into how it's being maintained prior to the 4th of July celebration, and then looking at future what we can do with that building.
A little chain, anything simpler than a 6-foot green fence that's temporary. Thank you. That's all I have.
I have 2 or 3 quick questions. I hope they're quick. With regard to the sidewalk replacement plan, and some time ago, the city conducted a survey of the entire sidewalk area to identify problems. Question 1, does that need to be updated? And if so, is there a plan to do it? And secondly, related to that, we also undertook a program of grinding down some of the lifts that provided an improvement in safety, at least for a period of time. And do we still have a grinding element in our sidewalk maintenance program?
Yes, so to answer those questions, I did come across that report, it's from 2015, I want to say, when the sidewalk evaluation was completed, but I do have that very large binder of all the sidewalk that was assessed. And I would say, yes, it's due for an update, because the unfortunate part is I do have that assessment, but I don't have any real information beyond that to know what actually is fixed or not. I know we've done sidewalk replacement programs, but I just haven't come across very good records that documents all the locations throughout the city to know what we have done and also what has changed over since the last 8 years or so since that was completed. So I have been requesting proposals to see what it would look like to do a new assessment. That is something that I would like to address in the near future. So we can get a new assessment of that and use that as the basis for continuing our sidewalk replacement program to make sure we're tackling it the best way possible. As I said, we are using various GoGovs and community contacts as a basis of starting our list. But it would be good to have a comprehensive new evaluation done just to make sure we can have that and have a better way of tracking going forward, making sure everything's being addressed. And then the last part of that in terms of grinding, we do still grind. So when we do get those requests through GoGov, depending on the height of the lift, would vary in terms of how we address it. So sometimes it can be ramped with asphalt temporarily, or if it's a higher lift, then we would look at grinding it. And like you said, those provide temporary solutions until we can go back and replace them. So that's a lot of what we're going back to now.
So we have internal capability to address to make the short-term
Short-term, yeah.
issues and stuff. I recall a conversation with a former mayor who was had proposed that we find a way to involve volunteers, citizens, in the sidewalk review. I don't know if you've ever seen any notes on that thought process, but if you haven't, there may be some somewhere, and I don't know whether it was deemed impractical or what, but just I know you're here less time than some of the rest of us, so I thought I'd share that. The San Marino Center, your note seems to suggest remains on target to open in the fall.
Yes, that's still the plan. We are working towards hopefully a end of September grand opening ribbon cutting ceremony. So things are moving along. We expect HVAC units to be installed later the end of this week or next week, depending on when they arrive on site. Our electrical meter was signed off last week to go to Edison, so we're waiting for Edison's schedule. So some of that gets out of our hands, but yes, construction is moving along. A lot of site improvements are happening. We're looking at starting landscaping outside soon. So things are really coming together, and that's what we're aiming for.
There are still some exterior props. Looks like pieces of wood holding up the roof and
Yeah, so
things
that,
like that. I assume those are not permanent.
no, those aren't permanent. We are replacing some of the sidewalk that's under the overhangs had to unfortunately be replaced instead of being protected in place as we had hoped, because there were some structural issues that needed to be addressed. And so there is the supports there right now. They started, I believe, demoing some of the concrete last week. So once the new concrete gets poured or placed back, then they'll be able to start removing some of that scaffolding that you're seeing.
You made a note that there is that Dewberry Architects are preparing a report on the police department space utilization. I was just curious about the timing.
I believe we recently received the draft report, and it's under review. So that should
Stephen
be
Contra, part of the review team, I assume,
Yes,
or maybe the entire team.
we've completed our part of it, and we provided a copy, red line copy to Public Works, and also acting city manager, Rueda has been looking at it too. And we'll be moving forward. We'll be having discussions amongst ourselves, with Dewberry, with finance, about what input he would have, or the department would have, and then we look forward to having a meeting with the community once those tasks are completed.
Is it safe to say you're comfortable with the process so far?
So far, yes.
And the last question I had, and I don't want to create work. But as with the fire department and the police department, they've developed statistics on some of the things that occur on a regular basis. And in your report, you refer to maintenance requests and your ability to address them on a timely basis, which thank goodness you are. I'm just wondering if in a future report, you might be able to give us some kind of a sense of the volume of report or requests you're getting. And I assume these are requests you're getting through the internet and or phone, but primarily from residents and what have you. So, and you were saying like something like 85% are being responded or have been taken care of right away and what have you. I was just kind of curious, what kinds of things are they requesting? Is this a call like I've made there's a branch down in front of my house, or is it, other things that?
Yeah, we can look at classifying.
Yeah, I know if you've got the data, it just general would be great for me. Maybe the others would like something less or more.
No, I mean, yeah, if GoGov can easily just I'm assuming it has some built-in reporting. I'd be curious
I
to
think
see.
in the order, you can check a box on what type of request it is. If you could just sort by that, and it'll get a
Yeah.
report.
A pivot table.
I'm mainly concerned about those things that have to do with public safety as opposed to maybe things having to do with cosmetics or what have you.
Yeah, we can do that.
Thank you.
I actually have a quick question. I know we talked about a while ago that there is, I don't know how to describe it, like a community publication going out, 6-7 pages. I think they were talking about kind of highlighting a lot of things. Is that still going to happen?
Final review will be tomorrow.
Oh, okay. Oh, this may be too late to ask, but I'll be curious then. Is there anything in there talking about the GoGov app? Because I think it's still slowly being discovered, but it's extremely powerful.
Don't recall. If it's not, we'll make sure it's in.
Okay. I mean, when people came to the neighborhood watch, I know 3 people that literally stopped me while I was walking. We downloaded the app and we submitted things. I'm like, great, there's tickets, but people get the technology. Everyone has a smartphone now. I think the metadata captures when you take the picture, et cetera, is phenomenal to get you guys going to the right place fast.
Motion to receive and file.
Final.
All in favor? Aye. That takes us to the next agenda item, which is approval of the minutes of the meeting of May 15th. Do I have a motion to approve or accept? Approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Are there any public writings or have there been any comments from anyone in the community?
No request for comment on Zoom.
Thank you. Next agenda item has to do with follow-up on pending items. I think we discussed in our last meeting beginning to build a pending items listing, and obviously Director Shaw has done a good job of starting us on that way. Thank you, as have the 2 chiefs. So, is that something you would like to formalize?
I'm open to discussion on how to do it. I've just been looking at my notes of things, like just old items that are out there, no particular department, and all that, but just signs on Westwood and Sherwood. As a topic we brought up a couple of times of when those become permanent. I don't want to just be in a situation to keep on asking and like just to get a follow-up, if that makes sense. Just something a little bit more proactive and responsive.
You make a note to.
I mean, how do we?
I know in the next meeting you mentioned that you'd be taking a look at their. I noticed the signs are back on small horses again, and
Yeah, I actually drove that intersection before the meeting to take a look at it.
They're not crazy. They really are there.
Yeah, I've seen it. And that is, it is within the school zone, so we are gonna be doing a full school zone audit with our traffic engineers for all of the school zones, making sure all the signing, striping, markings, everything's up to MUTCD compliance and appropriate for all the locations. So that intersection will certainly fall within that, the purview of that assessment. I did notice we do have, school crossing ahead signs that are already posted up on signs. Having the signs at the intersection seems a bit redundant and maybe not necessary considering it's a four-way stop, but
Maybe-
we can assess
Maybe
that.
that can be addressed in your meeting with the traffic meeting, is that tomorrow or the day or whenever it is in the near future?
And my goal was maybe more just how do we want to holistically track these as opposed to address them now, or we could run through them more quickly. I look to you guys how you want to use the time.
I think that adding a section to your, or highlighting follow-up items in your reports is wonderful. That's great for us.
And I understand the list will get long because I think a lot of things obviously have a very long cycle time, but I just think so we don't lose it. One of the other items I had was the discussion of blocking aprons that we had about 2 cycles ago. It was brought up by neighborhood person, Justin. I just, are PD's enforcing it? Are we done with it? Or was there anything more we can do? These are kind of things that I don't know. It was the individual on San Gabriel Sierra Madre, that was saying that their apron's always blocked and they don't want to call the PD every day because they can't get their driveway. Was there anything we were going to do on that, or just kind of we were done? Those are things that in my mind I'm just wondering about.
My recollection was that the context was if you place this striping, then I'll never be able to get out of my driveway. We've had the striping and I don't think we've had any complaints from anybody.
Okay, and that's exactly what I hear in terms of we were made aware of it. It's been 2 cycles. We've heard nothing else. We think it's worked, whatever our result is. Another one I had just for follow-up is the Huntington Library signs, where we were talking about how those were out in the community. And ironically, no, we went to Huntington Library. They have valet now. Is that one of the responses to try to deal with the neighborhood complaints? That's what their stance was. I was like, I didn't know they were doing valet.
I don't know the Johnny.
Yeah, they are on weekends, on busy weekends. I've seen valet parking in.
I thought it was because of you guys talking about the signs.
I mean, we've met with them several times. Huntington is very sensitive to complaints they get from residents on streets that surround them. Usually they'll alert us if there's an issue. I didn't know about the valet. I hadn't seen that. We just met with them last week.
They do have parking assistance in the west parking lot where volunteers park and where they sometimes slot guests into. And that is maintained Saturday and Sunday. I don't know that there's any valet parking anywhere else. Seen it elsewhere? The only place I know about it is in the west lot where I park when I'm a volunteer there on Saturday and Sunday.
There's one toward the north part of the parking lot.
I think they're getting noise from the community directly, and they're responding. I thought it was you guys, to be honest, but if you're not aware of it, then they're definitely hearing from somebody in the community.
And I see no parking signs on the weekends, on the east side of, what's that? Oxford.
I brought this up to acting city manager Rowena, and I still have a concern. Saturday after our yogurt for the cop that we had, it was successful and fun, and the yogurt was tasty. I was driving around, I think we all too, and I went up Oxford, and I saw the signs. My problem is if I have one person that parks on that side and a resident complains and calls the police department, there's absolutely nothing I can do. And part of my ability to do my job is goodwill and knowing that we're responsive. For me to not be able to do something is frustrating, and it may be, maybe, but I think a conversation with the new city manager, with Director Shaw and the traffic engineer, along with the Huntington, about there's going to be expectations, because all I need is just one person to park, because there were cars parked along Oxford, all nearly halfway down the street, and then along I just completely East-West Street on the frontage of Huntington.
Both
From
right
the point of view. It's packed. And I'm looking at it going, someone parks, there's nothing I can do. And then up another street that I'm just about it. And on either side of Ballin, in fact, anyone can park there.
As a commission, can we help you in some way by encouraging or by asking for a formal discussion in some way with, we need to get to the point where the city council empowers you? Are you at that? Are you ready for that?
No, I think the conversation with Huntington and with our assessment, we'll see where we can go. And I think we all are very capable of coming up with an appropriate response. And maybe, I've been accused of deep thoughting things a little bit too much. So,
No, you've got a legitimate concern, and I think that there is an expectation that it will be enforced. And if it can't be, then the time may come that we have an issue. So,
Yeah, no beauty code violation on the bottom of those signs.
they're not even placed at the right height. They're not even.
Really just asking the patrons of the Huntington Library not to park there.
right, that's what they're doing.
This is my list of
They're
open
doing
items.
that as a result of an interaction with the neighbors.
Yes.
But it puts, I understand the issue that you've raised, and it's real. And I would assume that as a part of our traffic management within the city, we could, should we wish, create those signs, those places where those signs are, as no parking on Saturday and Sunday between, 10 and 4 or whatever it is. I would assume that the council could adopt a regular, an ordinance doing that, or change whatever the ordinance are. And I sense we're not to that point yet, but should you think that's necessary and you would like us to support you, we'd certainly be willing to discuss it.
Thank you very much. That'd be helpful.
Was that an ask or are you having?
No, I don't think we haven't asked yet. We expressed willingness.
Okay.
And should the team come back to us and ask for help?
Okay, so maybe next
We'll put it on the
month,
agenda.
we'll check in and see how Nathan's discussions are going. Is that fair to pose this per se one way or another? Or the next 2 months?
Why don't you bring it back to us when you're
Yeah.
ready to?
Temperature.
I mean, the flip side is we have like one community member goes, there's these stupid signs in my front yard. I called you guys about it and it was a joke. What happened here? And then we have to explain, oh, back 6 months ago, we discussed this and we knew this was coming. So, okay, one final question just to close off my list. It was brought up the Geordie and Hillard crossing with the trees, Amber. I think 2, 3, that was the team that actually came into the chambers here. They were talking about crossing the street. It's extremely dangerous because you have all the fast traffic coming off of San Gabriel. And they were saying that the palm trees that are there kind of block, line of sight, etc. They recommended something in the street. I mean, has your team had any opportunity to look at that?
I will have to look that up and get back to you.
I'll keep it on the list. Thank you. That's all I got.
Yeah, I ask just one follow-up question once you're finished. Remind me, do we have included in the list of issues that you will review with the traffic engineer, the striping on Huntington Drive that we're still driving people into the gentleman's house? Or still not avoiding them hitting his house, although they haven't hit his house recently, apparently.
No.
That I am aware of that issue, so yeah, that was in our.
Okay, because that was one of the follow-up item that I can remember, and that we talk about it regularly or from time to time. Any future agenda items that you want to identify at this point?
We're discussing at the last meeting, possibly canceling certain meetings in the future. I know, I don't remember which ones, to be honest, but is that something we need to
Believe,
look at?
well, that allows us to ask the acting city manager, I understand that the council was going to address the meeting structure for this commission along with all others.
Yes, that's already happened.
And what did they decide?
I did, what I shared with you last time, that all commissions would be governed by the same handbook. And the handbook would say you're permitted to have up to 25% of the meetings excused or unexcused absences. So we did not address excused absences. And then the other provisions of remote meetings, all that is unchanged. So still have to,
So
whatever remote in, you still have to post.
So, should we find that it is appropriate to essentially cancel a meeting or adjourn a meeting without starting it, or whatever the proper terminology is, we can do that.
That canceling meetings is completely within your purview. In fact, the council is actually dark in August, which is a time that I think many choose to follow suit.
So can we
If we were to also go dark, let's say in August, I'm going to ask this. Is there a time that staff, I mean, we know that we sometimes have things that interfere, but the staff has got to deal with work schedules and vacation schedules and things. If we were dark in August, would that be in any way helpful to staff or not? Staff being the three of you. I mean, obviously, anytime you don't have to go to a meeting is a plus. Is August a good time to have to be?
I have two commanders that can always fill in for me. So I can delegate it.
we'll see how in August.
All right, well, we've discussed adjourning or not holding meetings in November and possibly December because of the conflict with holidays specifically. Is there a request to do some other time?
I have to look at the calendar for what days those fall, to be honest, right now. But can we bring that up as an agenda item? Do we need to bring up as an agenda item to cancel it in the future, or can we just do it in a ad hoc later meeting next time?
I think putting it on the agenda would be a transparent thing to do. Then you can hear your ideas and come up with a.
Okay, and the request is for at the next meeting, let's just double check the rest of the 2023 calendar for possible meetings to cancel in a much more
Well,
succinct way.
Before we adjourn today, we're not planning to, but we are planning to meet in July. Is there any other, do either of you feel the desire to cancel in August?
Well, personally, I'm gonna be on vacation.
You're not going to be here in
I'm
August.
gonna be here.
I probably will not be here thinking out loud. It's just last time before school starts. I want to go someplace. Yes, I'd be in support of canceling August.
Then let's do it.
Can we do that?
Let's do it now so that everybody can plan.
Yeah.
So I need a motion to cancel our regularly scheduled meeting. Was that the proper term or?
I think you could just.
Yeah, so we're gonna cancel the meeting.
August 21st meeting canceled. Can we do
Favor
Aye.
aye. 8:20.
21? Cancel.
And then we'll deal with other meetings at another time. Now, again, we said we want to do that, but I don't want us to in any way inhibit your work. So you're having your meeting with the school district and you'll be able to report to us in July. And if you need any help from us, we'll be able to do it then.
Yes, sir.
Good. Move to adjourn.
Oh, one more thing, Chair. Last time we talked about reorg, we're just gonna talk about it at the next meeting, or, I know we're missing two members.
I was reminded by the council that we do that in July. So the first thing we'll do at the July meeting will be to reorganize. So flags and signs out. All in favor of adjournment? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you to all of you for your time and your effort. We really appreciate what you do.
Yes, thank you.
Get back to the room too. Thank you so much.
You.
Have a great evening.